So now prosperity begins to mellow and drop into the rotten mouth of death. Here in these confines, slyly have I lurked to watch the waning of mine enemies. A dire induction am I witness to, and will to France, hoping the consequence will prove as bitter, black, and tragical. Withdraw, wretched Margaret, who comes here?
Ah, my poor princes. Ah, my tender babes. My unblowed flowers, new appearing sweets. If yet your gentle souls fly in the air and be not fixed in doom perpetual, hover about me with your airy wings and hear your mother's lamentation.
Hover about her. Say right for right have dimmed your infant morn to aged night.
So many miseries have crazed my voice that my woe-wearied tongue is still and mute. Edward Plantagenet, why art thou dead?
Edward Plantagenet doth quit Plantagenet. Edward for Edward pays a dying debt.
Wilt thou, O God, fly from such gentle lambs and throw them in the entrails of the wolf? When didst thou sleep when such a deed was done?
When holy Harry died, and my sweet son.
Dead life, blind sight, poor mortal living ghost. Woe seen, world's shame, graves due by life usurped. Brief abstract and record of tedious days, rest thy unrest on England's lawful earth, unlawfully made drunk with innocence' blood.
Ah, that thou wouldst as soon afford a grave as thou canst yield a melancholy seat. Then would I hide my bones, not rest them here. Ah, who hath any cause to mourn but we?
If ancient sorrow be most reverend, give mine the benefit of seniority, and let my griefs frown on the upper hand. If sorrow can admit society, tell over your woes again by viewing mine. I had an Edward till a Richard killed him. I had an Edward till a Richard killed him. I had a husband till a Richard killed him. Thou hadst an Edward till a Richard killed him. Thou hadst an Richard till a Richard killed him.
I had a Richard too, and thou didst kill him. I had a Rutland too, thou helpst to kill him.
Thou hadst a Clarence too, and a Richard killed him. From forth the kettle of thy womb hath crept a hellhound that doth hunt us all to death. That dog that had his teeth before his eyes, to worry lambs and lap their gentle blood. That excellent grand tyrant of the earth, that reigns in galled eyes of weeping souls. That foul defacer of God's handiwork, thy womb let loose to chase us to our graves. Oh, upright, just, and true disposing God, how do I thank thee that this carnal cur preys on the issue of his mother's body and makes her pew fellow with others moan.
O Harry's wife, triumph not in my woes. God witness with me, I have wept for thine.
Bear with me. I am hungry with revenge, and now I cloy me with beholding it. Thy Edward, he is dead that killed my Edward. Thy other Edward dead to quit my Edward. Young York, he is but boot, because both they match not the high perfection of my loss. Thy Clarence, he is dead that stabbed my Edward. And the beholders of this frantic play, the adulterate Hastings, Rivers, Vaughan, Grey, untimely smothered in their dusky graves. Richard yet lives, hell's black intelligencer, only reserved his factor to buy souls and send them thither. But at hand ensues his piteous and unpitied end. Earth gapes, hell burns, fiends roar, saints pray to have him suddenly conveyed from hence. Cancel his bond of life, dear God, I pray, that I may live and say the dog is dead.
Oh, thou didst prophesy the time would come, that I should wish for thee to help me curse that bottled spider, that foul bunch-backed toad.
I call thee then, vain flourish of my fortune. I call thee then, poor shadow painted queen. The presentation of but what I was. The flattering index of a direful pageant, one heaved a high to be hurled down below. A mother only marked with two fair babes, a dream of what thou west, a garish flag to be the aim of every dangerous shot, a sign of dignity, a breath, a bauble, a queen in jest, only to fill the scene. Where is thy husband now? Where be thy brothers? Where are thy two sons? Wherein dost thou joy? Who sues? Who sues? Who sues and kneels and says, God save the queen? Where be the bending peers that flattered thee? Where be the thronging troops that followed thee? Decline all this and see what now thou art. For happy wife, a most distressed widow. For joyful mother, one that wails the name. For one being sued to, one that humbly sues. For queen, a very caitiff crowned with care. For she that scorned at me, now scorned of me. For she being feared of all, now fearing one. For she commanding all, obeyed of none. Thus hath the course of justice whirled about and left thee but a very prey to time, having no more but thought of what thou west, to torture thee the more, being what thou art. Thou didst usurp my place, and dost thou now usurp the just proportion of my sorrow? Now thy proud neck bears half my burdened yoke, from which even here I slip my weary head and leave the burden of it all on thee. Farewell, York's wife and queen of sad mischance. These English woes shall make me smile in France.
O thou well skilled in curses, stay a while, and teach me how to curse mine enemies.
Forbear to sleep the nights and fast the days. Compare dead happiness with living woe. Think that thy babes were sweeter than they were, and he that slew them fouler than he is. Bettering thy loss makes the bad causer worse. Revolving all this will teach thee how to curse.
My words are dull, oh, quicken them with thine.
Thy woes will make them sharp and pierce like mine.
Why should calamity be full of words?
Windy attorneys to their clients' woes, airy succeeders of intestate joys, poor breathing orators of miseries, let them have scope. Though what they will impart help nothing else, yet do they ease the heart.
If so, then be not tongue-tied. Go with me, and in the breath of bitter words, let's smother my damned son that thy two sweet sons smothered. The trumpet sounds, be copious in exclaims.
Who intercepts me in my expedition?
Oh, she that might have intercepted thee by strangling thee in her accursed womb from all the slaughters, wretch, that thou hast done.
Hidest thou that forehead with a golden crown, where should be branded, if that right were right, the slaughter of the prince that owed that crown, and the dire death of my poor sons and brothers? Tell me, thou villain slave, where are my children?
Thou toad, where is thy brother Clarence and little Ned Plantagenet, his son?
Where is the gentle Rivers, Vaughan, Grey?
Where is kind Hastings?
A flourish, trumpets, strike alarum drums. Let not the heavens hear these telltale women rail on the Lord's anointed. Strike, I say. Either be patient and entreat me fair, or with the clamorous report of war, thus will I drown your exclamations.
Art thou my son?
Aye, I thank God, my father, and yourself.
Then patiently hear my impatience.
Madam, I have a touch of your condition that cannot brook the accent of reproof.
Oh, let me speak.
Do then, but I'll not hear.
I will be mild and gentle in my words.
And brief, good mother, for I am in haste.
Art thou so hasty? I have stayed for thee, God knows, in torment and in agony.
And came I not at last to comfort you?
No, by the holy rood, thou knowest it well. Thou camest on earth to make the earth my hell. A grievous burthen was thy birth to me, tetchy and wayward was thy infancy. Thy school days frightful, desperate, wild, and furious. Thy prime of manhood, daring, bold, and venturous. Thy age confirmed, proud, subtle, sly, and bloody. More mild, but yet more harmful, kind in hatred. What comfortable hour canst thou name that ever graced me with thy company?
Faith, none, but Humphrey hour that called your grace to breakfast once forth of my company. If I be so disgracious in your eye, let me march on and not offend you, madam. Strike up the drum.
I pray thee, hear me speak.
Ah, you speak too bitterly.
Hear me a word, for I shall never speak to thee again.
So,
either thou wilt die by God's just ordinance, ere from this war thou turn a conqueror, or I with grief and extreme age shall perish and never more behold thy face again. Therefore, take with thee my most grievous curse, which in the day of battle tire thee more than all the complete armor that thou wearest. My prayers on the adverse party fight, and there the little souls of Edward's children whisper the spirits of thine enemies and promise them success and victory. Bloody thou art, bloody will be thy end. Shame serves thy life, and doth thy death attend.
Though far more cause, yet much less spirit to curse abides in me. I say amen to her.
stay, madam, I must talk a word with you.
I have no more sons of the royal blood for thee to slaughter. For my daughters, Richard, they shall be praying nuns, not weeping queens, and therefore level not to hit their lives.
You have a daughter called Elizabeth, virtuous and fair, royal and gracious.
And must she die for this? Oh, let her live, and I'll corrupt her manners, stain her beauty, slander myself as false to Edward's bed, throw over her the veil of infamy. So she may live unscarred of bleeding slaughter. I will confess she was not Edward's daughter.
Wrong not her birth. She is a royal princess.
To save her life, I'll say she is not so.
Her life is safest only in her birth.
And only in that safety died her brothers.
Lo, at their birth good stars were opposite.
No, to their lives ill friends were contrary.
All unavoided is the doom of destiny.
True, when avoided grace makes destiny. My babes were destined to a fairer death, if grace had blessed thee with a fairer life.
You speak as if I had slain my cousins.
Cousins indeed, and by their uncle cousined of comfort, kingdom, kindred, freedom, life, whose hands soever lanced their tender hearts, thy head all indirectly gave direction. No doubt the murderous knife was dull and blunt till it was whetted on thy stone-hard heart to revel in the entrails of my lambs. But that still use of grief makes wild grief tame. My tongue should to thine ears not name my boys till that my nails were anchored in thine eyes, and I in such a desperate bay of death, like a poor bark of sails and tackling reft, rush all to pieces on thy rocky bosom.
Madam, so thrive I in my enterprise and dangerous success of bloody wars, as I intend more good to you and yours than ever you and yours were by me were harmed.
What good is covered with the face of heaven to be discovered that can do me good?
The advancement of your children, gentle lady.
Up to some scaffold, there to lose their heads.
Unto the dignity and height of fortune, the high imperial type of this earth's glory.
Batter my sorrow with report of it. Tell me, what state, what dignity, what honor canst thou demise to any child of mine?
Even all I have, I, myself, and all, will I withal endow a child of thine. So in the lethe of thy angry soul, thou drown the sad remembrance of those wrongs which thou supposest I have done to thee.
Be brief, lest that the process of thy kindness last longer telling than thy kindness date.
Then know that from my soul I love thy daughter.
My daughter's mother thinks it with her soul.
What dost thou think?
That thou dost love my daughter from thy soul. So from thy soul's love didst thou love her brothers, and from my heart's love I do thank thee for it.
Be not so hasty to confound my meaning. I mean that with my soul I love thy daughter, and do intend to make her Queen of England.
Well then, who dost thou mean shall be her king?
Even he that makes her queen, who else should be?
What? Thou?
Even so. How think you of it?
How canst thou woo her?
That would I learn of you, as being one best acquainted with her humor.
And wilt thou learn of me?
Madam, with all my heart.
Send to her, by the man that slew her brothers, a pair of bleeding hearts, thereon engrave Edward and York. Then haply will she weep. Therefore present to her, as sometime Margaret did to thy father, steeped in Rutland's blood, a handkerchief, which, say to her, did drain the purple sap from her sweet brother's body, and bid her wipe her weeping eyes withal. If this inducement move her not to love, send her a letter of thy noble deeds. Tell her thou madest away her uncle Clarence, her uncle River's eye, and for her sake madest quick conveyance with her good Aunt Anne.
You mock me, madam. This is not the way to win your daughter.
There is no other way, unless thou couldst put on some other shape, and not be Richard that hath done all this.
Say that I did all this for love of her.
Nay, and indeed she cannot choose but hate thee, having bought love with such a bloody spoil.